We are here at the BITS Latin America. We have Frank Casale, CEO of the Outsourcing Institute, who will participate in a nearshore panel in just a little while. We are at the Baguete radio station, and we want to ask a few questions to Frank on his perception about the Brazilian endeavor of penetrating the North American market. How are you doing, Frank?
Good to see you today. We're doing fine.
Good to see you too, Frank. Frank, in your view, what is the single mistake most outsourced providers make when they're trying to penetrate the North American market?
The biggest challenge we see, Robert, is the fact that our marketplace is different, how the buyers buy is different, and therefore how to sell and market into the States is somewhat dramatically different than many others are used to, certainly as the Brazilian players are used to. So the key is to understand the difference, embrace that difference, and educate your team, if you will, as to how to sell.
So what would be the Outsourcing Institute's single recommendation on what you just said for Brazilian IT companies when you're talking about understand the difference? What would be the biggest thing they could do to understand that difference?
Well, there's a couple different ways they could do it, quite honestly. One is they can work with an expert, such as yourself, that knows both cultures, and you can help guide them. The other thing they can do is, what I recommend they do regardless, is immerse yourself into the marketplace. Spend time not only with the buyers in the U.S. to get a good sense of what's on their mind and what drives their decisions, but spend time with many other organizations in the U.S. that have successfully sold into the U.S. Now, it may be tough, Robert, to do that with a competitor, but you can do this with other organizations that may not be in your space. If you're an IT provider, then you could work with a professional services firm. You can become friends with an HR or a contact center or a software company, and build a network of organizations like that and help these folks coach you. They will, as to what are the drivers, what are the turn-ons, what are the turn-offs from an outsourcing buyer perspective here in the States. I think that's the most efficient way to get it done.
Very good. You earlier mentioned something about less being more, and you're going to be on a nearshore panel in a little while. And what would be your recommendation or your view based on the current trends that your organization is always constantly monitoring as far as competitive differentiation? Now, what is your view on how to create that different value proposition according to the North American market, the buyers that you know?
Okay, so really it's two things that you touched on there, so let me take them one at a time. As far as less is more, this is nothing that's unique. This is not something unique, let's say, for players in Brazil or any offshore nearshore player, but it's something I think that becomes mandatory because there's already the challenge of the fact that you need to you're coming in as an outsider. In many cases, you may be new to the U.S. marketplace. So what's my point? My point is, be a specialist, don't be a generalist. If you're a specialist, there still will be competition, but you'll have a fighting chance. If you're a generalist, you'll virtually have no chance because you won't have the expertise, the domain expertise that any particular buyer is looking for. And what the buyers are telling us is they want specialists. So if you're in the banking industry as a buyer, you want someone with domain expertise in banking. If you're a pharmaceutical company, if you're in the manufacturing sector, that's the person you want to work with. You don't want someone to show you references from a hospital where they did some software development, and you're a Procter & Gamble in consumer goods. And no matter how happy that hospital was, they won't even take that serious. They want to hear from other consumer goods organizations, other pharmaceutical organizations. So I would say less is more from the standpoint of when you have that slide up there, Robert, that says, here's what you do. If there's 15 things on that slide, you're in trouble. You really want to thin that out. I would say less than 5 specialties, maybe 3, but less is more. You would think that the less you offer, the less of a chance you have of getting business. It's the opposite. It is counterintuitive, but it's been proven in all the research that it works. Second part of your question as to the differentiators. I'll start from the mind of the buyer. at the end of the day, I know you embrace this philosophy, that's what drives all selling and marketing, right? The buyers that have already committed to Brazil have told me that the key differentiators are time zone and culture. So now turn that around. Knowing that, what would you do in how you communicate to the buyers? Okay, are you leveraging that time zone? Are you leveraging that cultural compatibility? That's what needs to be communicated in your marketing materials, in your sales strategy, in your selling discussion, in the prospects that you target. Meaning, if you target a prospect, all they care about is price and the cheapest player wins, move on to the next prospect. Because you can't compete. Brazil will never be the cheapest, nor does it need to be. There are plenty of organizations there that have been around the block with regard to outsourcing or IT services in general, and they've been challenged, if not mildly tortured, with regard to projects requiring communication, middle of the night, middle of the morning. In the beginning, it seemed like it wouldn't be a big deal. A year or two later, these experienced buyers know that it is a big deal, and it's a challenge for them. Cultural compatibility and communication is another big factor that the experienced buyers know. So net, I would say, find experienced buyers because they're battle tested and they know, and then lead with your strengths.
Thank you very much, Frank.
My pleasure. Thank you, Robert.